Test. I tested I turned up all the mics, trying to make the other mic work. So I might be loud on some of these. Are we live? Okay. Welcome everybody to Trivia with Olivia. Pew, 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 pew. We're going to go with some basic trivia again. What is cynophobia? Big hint, I don't have cynophobia. No. Because I have 2 of these. Not. Uh-huh. It's the fear of dogs. I don't understand those people, but dogs are lovely. But it's okay if you have cynophobia. I have been attacked by dogs. I love them. Let's see. Which Disney princess talks to the most animals? Ding, 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 ding. Snow White is correct. Test. There we go. What famous U.S. festival hosted over 350,000 fans in 1969? This one catches everything. What famous U.S. festival hosted over 350,000 fans in 1969? This one doesn't work. Yeah. The answer is Woodstock. How many colors are there in the rainbow? Nope. I don't got a mic. Hello? No, I'm not turning them on. You just turned me off. Okay, there we go. The answer is 7. There are 7 colors in the rainbow. Roy G. Biv. Let's see. The name of which African animal means river horse? What's the name of an animal called the river horse? And that's a hippopotamus. Hello, hello. There we are. All right. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back here at 9 o'clock for the start of our committee meeting. See you then. That one might need to be turned up, but that's how it goes. Test, 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 test.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is Tuesday, September the 12th, and the time is now 9:03. I'd like to welcome everyone here and officially call this meeting to order. We do have several items on the agenda, including a presentation toward the end, and there will be a need to go into executive session today. So at this time, we would like to take a vote on the approval of the minutes. This is the approval of the minutes, item 2A, from July 11th, 2023 meeting. I got a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda next Tuesday. Item 3A is appointments to authorities and boards and committees. Mr. Griffin's not here today, but we're going to go ahead and proceed on this. This is a board appointment that we've been needed to do for a while. This is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission appointing Jesse Griffin to the Pension Trustee Board of the Macon-Bibb County Pension Plan. He was a recommendation of the Bibb Retirement Association, and that is my motion. Can I get a second? Second by, we'll do Bronson and Wynn over there. Any discussion on Mr. Griffin? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda as well. Item 4A is new alcohol beverage licenses. We have a couple of those today, both approval and denial recommendations. The first is Daiquiris and More, located at 408 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Daiquiris and More is one of those ones who were using the special event permit, but went and got an alcohol license and jumped through all the hoops necessary to do that. All the legal and necessary arrangements have been made, including the good standing order. And this is a transfer from one location downtown to another location on MLK. So the recommendation is for that to be approved. Can we get a motion for approval? Motion by Commissioner Bronson. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say, I'm sorry, Mr. Watkins, you have a question?
I was just curious on what's the process timeline in this one?
On this one?
Yeah.
I know as soon as he started doing the transfer, it got approved fairly quickly, but I'm not sure what the total time was.
I'm just curious on how long it takes from day one of, I guess, filing or applying to receiving the license.
I'm not sure how long it takes once it goes from the tax commissioner's office to the sheriff and all of that. This one was relatively short because he didn't have to redo fingerprints or anything like that, since it was just a change of location.
What's short?
I don't have a date. I just know that there is less steps in the process.
This is a transfer. Typically, once the business gets all the information that you would normally get for a license, and they're at a point where they run it in a newspaper, that whole process is about 2 months because you have to run that in a newspaper for a while. They can apply for a temporary license, which is $100, and the tax commissioner can do that, even if it takes a minute to get before our commission for a vote. So typically, they have a temporary license prior to us voting for the permanent license. But I would say about 2 months is what the process would generally take. And that's when they've met all the legal and statutory reasons. So we do have a motion and second. If there's no further questions, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries, will be sent to consent agenda next Tuesday. The next one is a Cotton Ranch located at 347 Cotton Avenue, Macon, Georgia. This one came up before. We'll need to move that off the table so we can discuss that and vote on it today. So at this time, entertain a motion to remove that from the table. Motion by Commissioner Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. All those in favor of removing that from the table, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries, and we'll move that off the table. As you recall, we had some discussion regarding this item back probably 4 to 6 weeks ago, if my memory serves me correct. There were some issues at that time that we had heard about in the community for using a special event permit, using one license for another license, someone's not getting paid, et cetera, et cetera. We decided to let them operate there on their temporary permit, but to revisit at a later time to see if any issues popped up. Meanwhile, we have received a letter from the state asking us not to approve that license because this particular applicant has not paid taxes and would ask us to not approve it. At the same time, we've had some other issues involving this particular, that other bar that they had closed down on 2nd Street. and been some other issues as well that we had to send code enforcement out there to check on. But the main issue right now is the state, so the recommendation is denial because the state had asked us to deny this and asked for me personally not to sign off on the application. So this time, to entertain a motion to approve the denial on the Cotton Ranch located at 347 Cotton Avenue. Motion by Commissioner Wilder. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. That motion carries. Going to move on to contracts and purchase orders for approval. My bad. Okay, I'm sorry. This is item C. My bad. As RAGVIN Ragin 2022 Bloomfield Grocery located at 4175 Bloomfield Drive, Macon, Georgia. And I'll have Attorney Frank Howard to discuss that.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Assistant County Attorney Frank Howard, and I do want to report that a hearing was held on this alcohol license, Rajvin 2022, doing business as Bloomfield Grocery at 4175 Bloomfield Road. And the Special Master, Boniface Eccles, determined after the hearing that this property was in fact operating without the required fresh food items to be a food mart, and therefore it's a Vice Mart, as there was no gas pumps available at that location either. At this time, the legal recommendation is denial of the license for this application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howard. You've heard the recommendation by the attorney. Is there a motion to approve the denial? Okay. Motion by Commissioner Wilder, second by Commissioner Jones. Further discussion? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. We're going to move on to contracts and purchase orders for approval. Item 5A. This is regarding the deep patch asphalt resurfacing projects that we have had and have been previously approved. This is actually the awarding of the bid, I believe, to Reeves Construction Company. This is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute an independent contract agreement with Reeves Construction Company in the amount of $2,434,942 for deep patch asphalt resurfacing projects to be paid from funds previously appropriated to the LMIG GDOT grant funds account road work line item. This is additional funds that we have put forward without any match to the state that we had indicated earlier that we wanted to approve. And I know there's a couple of questions. Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Which year does this apply to as far as an LMIG approval?
This is not LMIG. This has come out of that fund associated with that, but it's not LMIG.
This is strictly the additional
Strictly
fund.
general fund money that we put in addition to pay more roads. And I think it's about 40 roads, if I'm not correct, 39, 40 roads. So it's not a particular LMIG, but we did pass this. This was sent out to bid, and Reeves Construction was selected. Does that answer your question, or? Okay, we'll take that in just a second. A couple more questions. I got Commissioner Wynn.
Yeah, yes, sir, thank you. Hang on, Commissioner Jones. There were some roads that were removed from the contract. I didn't understand why those were removed.
In doing the bid process,
You could put that mic. You're a little taller than the last.
in doing the bid process and trying to make sure that we stay within the allocated budget and working with the contractor and getting that amount, it's kind of like a moving target as far as when they bid it with the supplies and the cost of a road. In my world, I asked them when they give me like a set price for a road. In their world, they give me a set price of their supplies, their schedule, and the labor. And so we kind of have to match that up. And so when they did the original bid for the roads that we recommended, it came in over the 2.5. And so we had to take some roads off. Now, we do believe that there will be some savings as they do this with efficiencies. And so as they go through the process and they tell us that we have some additional funds, then we'll go back and be able to add what we call the additive roads.
So how did they come to the conclusion of which one to take out of there?
Distance, pretty much just distance and location. We try to maximize with efficiencies and kind of do roads that are close in proximity. That way they don't have to move a lot of equipment from area to area.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
You know, they were, what were they, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something like that? Did they take out the ones that least needed it? Is that what it was, or just a length? You mentioned length
Well,
of the road.
A combination, but
Mhm.
primarily location for efficiencies to try to get the most bang for the buck. If they were already in the area, then that would save us money because they didn't
Okay.
have to like move all the way across town and then come
Okay.
back.
Okay, thank you. But they'll be added back in, won't they, if we can, as we
Oh,
go
yes.
along?
So,
Okay.
so as they go through this process and we identify that they are, the funds are available, we'll go back and add rows as we come up to get to the 2.5 amount.
I know some of us may have talked to constituents and told them the road was being paved, and now it's
understand.
not.
I,
And,
I,
you know,
I totally understand that we have made commitments out there and we're trying to live up to those commitments, but I'm asking people to also understand that we're trying to be efficient and we're trying to get the most bang for the buck. But
Okay.
our goal is to get all the roads paved in the next 3 to 5 years.
okay, thank you again.
We've got about 5 more questions, so don't go anywhere yet. Commissioner Howell?
Yes, sir. When we first started talking about doing this additional funds out of ours and it wouldn't be associated with LMIG, we talked about maybe looking at different specs on maybe some the neighborhood roads. Were we able to do that or not?
We did. We even contact GDOT to say, okay, what are your specs? And GDOT replied that they're all roads, so we are to go by our specs. So we did do that.
So I'm sure that added a few miles or
Correct.
hopefully to our list. Good.
We did.
Good.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir, just a question. Did we have a list of the streets in our packet? Was that in there?
Yes, sir. It should be.
Okay,
Mr. Wilder?
I'll look.
It's in there.
Don't remember.
I do want to say thank you for the fact that we finally got this section of Rogers Road. It's been such a topic for 2.5 years now. But I do want to bring to light, I really like the fact that we're looking into this grading system, but I'm not sure how long it's been since that was actually done. I did ride down a few of these roads, and they're, just got to voice my opinion, they're nowhere near as bad as some of the bigger roads, and I realize out in the country in Lizella District 6, the roads are longer. We may have to split them up in different lengths like we're approaching Columbus Road now, but I've just got to voice my opinion that please don't let this lay down. that we
Yes, sir.
need to do
And
some of
I'm
this.
not sure if I did it in my last county manager report, but we even went so far to take the step that if you had roads, if you remember when I tried to explain this, that the roads are broken down into segments. So certain roads maybe have a segment that's a 5. So instead of doing the whole road, we did a emergency patching for certain roads that we were able to take care of those segments. And I know in the last month we did eight segments. So it's either in this report or last month's report.
And
to
I
see the
did
location
ride
of
down
those.
some of those, Heath Road being one of them, Zebulon Road over there being another, and they do look great. And I kind of wish that company would have got involved in this Rogers Road, but I'm not sure why, but you did tell me that there was a reason it got moved to Reeves. I appreciate all that, but I can't put enough emphasis on how many calls I'm getting in this area of Rogers Road, and I know you're on top of it, but as you know, I'm not gonna let it die.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder. Just to let everyone know that they will start paving the roads tonight. So we have a couple of them already on schedule for this afternoon. We've asked them to let us know when they're going to be paving these roads from Reeves. And I agree with you. There's probably at some point in time, this is, the robotics program was done several years ago. It needs to be updated, consider either a new company or going back with the same company and have the roads updated because they have changed. We don't know where people are going to travel with the trucks and things of that nature. So you can't necessarily only rely on that. You have to put your eyes on it as well in video. At the same time, if you have one road in your particular district that is a long road and you pave it, sometimes that one road may cost $2 million, which would eat up a lot of the funds. So that is one reason we try to segment a lot of these things. So not perfect. We have 3 more callers, so let's go ahead and move on to Commissioner Watkins.
So 2 questions. One, you mentioned that the original budget and what we have today are different. So how much over, I guess, was the original budget versus what we have today, or how many roads or mileage got deleted is my first question. And then my second is, from what's remaining, we set out the goal with the Roadtronics study to address severely graded roads, being 4 or 5 or higher on our scoring scale. what percentage of the remaining roads would be considered severe from the list that remains?
Um, No particular order from your questions. I do not know the percentage. I can get with Barbara and GIS and try to figure that out of what's remaining of the 4 and 5 segment. As far as your first question, I believe the original bid came in, I think, at 2.8, and so we had to scale that down to get under the 2.5. So from there, but again, it is my belief based on the history that we will be able to go back and add some roads as they do the work, and the amounts as they bill us, the amounts won't equal the 2.4. They normally come in a little less, and then we are able to go back and add.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it was a difference of $300,000? 2.8, 2.5, if I'm hearing you right?
Yes, roughly.
How many roads, or what does that, one or two, I guess, or three or four? Can't be.
Well, the number of rows would be
Or however you quantify it.
Yeah, distance. So
Okay.
we went back and took out a certain amount of distance to get us under that 2.5 number for the contract. So, but I can find out exactly which roads that he took out.
No clue on what the 300,000 equates to in distance?
About 1.4 miles,
1.4 miles?
roughly.
And if the body had because I'm gonna vote yes to the 2.8. I mean, I'm gonna vote yes to the 2.5, but I also would have voted yes if the 2.8 was presented. Curiosity, why you stopped at, or where was the decision point to stop at the?
Well, the decision point was it's a work in progress. As I work more with the engineering department, I believe that the body itself has shown frustration over the years to get the work done. And so we wanted to keep work moving. That's why Reed's Construction, the winning bidder of the current group of roads, which is the LMIG 22, they were also the winning bidder for this group of roads, what we call General Fund 23, to get the work done. And then as we need to come back to the body for the additional work, then we would do it all at one time. So we kind of letting it get the work completed, and then we can see what the next steps are and going, because remember, we also pledged to do General Fund 24. And so whatever roads are left from General Fund 24, we want to put that list together, which we already have a template list. But if we move some roads up that were taken off of this list and then move into the additive list, we want to clean all that up. So the look on your face is exactly what we want to do. We want to clean all this up, let them finish all the work that's been contracted for, which currently the work is LMIG 22 and this list here, which we call General Fund 23. So let's let them complete that, and then we will go back and look at what other roads out there from the 4 and 5 list, and then present you a better plan. That's my goal. That's where the decision point was made.
I think to answer your question, Commissioner Watkins, is this board previously indicated they want to spend $2.5 million on this project. So we selected an amount of roads that we felt like under the prices at that time would equal $2.5 million. And some of those roads didn't quite make the list because we wanted to get under that 2.5 million instead of the 2.8 that came back at. We do believe, because of our conversations with GDOT and because of the being more efficient by working in certain areas, when you have some of these things that are pretty close, that can go ahead and knock them out, that we're going to have some savings, and we're going to be able to add those roads right back to it. But right now, we're not in a position to approve that, but I do expect that. We've done that before, and I don't see any reason we won't add those roads back on this current general fund.
And we had success with the patching. As you said, that we were able to find a company that can go out and do, instead of where our department, Public Works, does potholes for a certain distance, we were able to find a company that could do a larger area, which we call in patching, which is taking care of some of those 4 and 5 segments. We won't have to do the whole road. Right. So we're trying to put.
So help me out though. If a road is graded 4 or 5, it seemed like the patching would be something you would do on the least severe roads, because they just got a small little tick that's wrong and you can patch or fix that. And that's something that was severely damaged, hence it being severely damaged, would need more than just a patch job. It would need the full Monty.
It's not that it's serious damage. I'll give you an example. If you have a road as far as from me to that clock in the back of the room, that entire road there may be graded a 2 or 3. But where I'm seated at right now could be a segment of about 4 or 5. Doesn't mean that entire road is bad. So if I repair this portion of road in a nice flat surface by a professional company, you don't need to repave all the road from Dr. Moffett all the way to the end of the hallway because that road is fine. So by making that repair, you save the repaving of that entire road because that road actually was graded because it grades from place to place. So unfortunately, we do the law of averages when we look at these long roads when there's really some segments of that road that's pretty bad. And I say pretty bad, that grades bad on the robotics. Some of them are just cracks or minor holes and things of that nature. But when we go back and done that professional paving, now there's no reason to do the entire road, and we have that savings. We can use that money for elsewhere. Yeah. So if you go around, well, we've got some of the sites, but what you'll start seeing, since we had a company that bid that, and we'll continue to add companies, that as we get those projects, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to show any disrespect to our public works because they do a wonderful job. But there are people who this is all they do, and they have an asphalt company that they own, and they can get asphalt that's hot, that's readily available, and that's inexpensive, and they have the multi-million-dollar equipment to use to pave some of these roads that are more than just going out and taking a shovel and throwing a little asphalt in there and patting it down. Yes, we do that from time to time because we get notice from a particular person, and we have to go out there to do that. It's not the best practice. So what we decided to do is to use a professional paving company on a monthly basis that we can send some of these hot spots to do a really good job. And by doing that really good job, we have a better satisfaction to our customers, which are our taxpayers in Bibb County. But at the same time, we're saving money on the whole process by allowing us to save that money for the entire road so we can spread that to other parts of the area because we have about 1,100 miles of roads to pave in Macon-Bibb County. And because of the way we've done it for the last 15, 20 years, they haven't been getting paid as quickly as our customers would like for them to do. So that is one of these patches. I won't say patches. It's more of a paving for a smaller distance that we can spend money on to save having to spend several $100,000 on the entire road when actually the entire road does not need it at a time. So I hope that helps a little bit. Let me move on a couple more questions. If you have more, we'll fall back up to you. Okay. You didn't answer your second question?
And so from the list that we have today that we're voting on, I'm curious as to what percentage, mileage, distance, or whatever measurement are considered 4 or 5 segments, sections, miles, whatever you guys are using.
I would get that. I would get that percentage to you.
I'm sorry?
I would get that percentage to you. I have to get with Barbara from
Yeah, I don't need, so is it available in mileage or, because maybe I'm using the wrong terminology for measurement. So it doesn't have to be percentage, but what do we have?
I'll get you the list of what's left based on the work we've done from 21, 22, 23 to include this list. I'll get you the list of what's left.
So part of my question is you've given me that, and I can see from what I have that less than 40% of the overall project from beginning to 2025 are roads that are 4s and 5s. And so I'm curious on this list specifically, is it any better and how did the changes affect that? Did you take out more 4s or did you take out 1s?
No,
Because I'm curious and my passion is for our most severe sections to get fixed, and I keep on approving lists that don't seem to be doing that. So I'm looking for some confirmation that I'm wrong.
Okay, I'll get you that confirmation because I think what you just said, 40%, that's way low. I'm pretty sure that we got the majority. I'm pretty sure that we have the majority of the 4s and 5s taken care of the segment. So I will get you a cleaned up list by the end of this week.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Commissioner Bronson?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for providing the input and the updates on where we are right now with the roads. Just out of curiosity, I know one of my major concerns that I have throughout my district, when we start talking about places such as Nottingham Drive, Twin Pines, Waverland Drive, Riverview, and then of course Claremont, a lot of those areas are dealing with trees that buckle the road, and kind of wanted to know at what level is that kind of placed at in regards to the tracker between 1 through 5, and how easy would it be for us to get some of that buckling, I guess, I don't want to say resurfaced, but resurfaced.
I think the information you're describing is part of the robotics program. It was considered. They do a drive. I mean, it's like a Google Drive that you drive in Google Maps. You ride through the entire community, and it videotapes the whole thing.
Yes, sir.
And it looks at the condition of those roads. But you got to think, This was done 5 years ago, right? 4 or 5 years ago. And it may not show the buckling at that time that may be showing now. That's the need to update that, but we're trying to get through this list that we have based on the information we have and the funds we have prior to a SPOS.
Yes, sir.
To take care of the needs that we knew about at the time of this grading out.
Well, I
There's
know
some
on the,
changes on the buckling and all that stuff. It would take that into effect. Certainly, it would take that in effect if you got some areas that the concrete's been grown up because of trees or something nearby, and that would have been considered in this robotics program, if that's what you're asking.
so outside of that piece, and then of course we'll say Nottingham Drive, for instance. I know back in the back end where they did a lot of clearing of trees near the Masonic home, a lot of the log trucks now are passing through the neighborhood. So the concern now is if we even repave that area, what is to stop the continuance of destruction on the roads? Is there something that we can put in place on that end, or is that just, hey, we're going to repave and have to redo it again in another 5 to 10 years?
That's an entirely different conversation.
Gotcha.
It kind of goes back to our neighbors to the west of us on the rock quarry they have in Crawford County, right? So if they stay on Highway 80, that's not going to be a problem.
Yes, sir.
Because that's a state road that the state is supposed to take care of. If they take a right and get off and go the back way on the roads over by Commissioner Waters, then that's going to deteriorate those roads at a greater effort than it does right now.
Okay.
And that's why it's important to update your list after a while, because the roads, people change their patterns, and roads tend to get more use in certain areas than other areas, so you're gonna have more wear and tear on there. And but right now we're working on the robotics that we had before and the list we had before. Once we update that, some of those 2s before may be 5s now. So once we update that, it'll kind of show some of that priority would change.
Okay. If we can make sure that we get the entrance going into Carolyn Craven Park as well. I know we've already discussed that once, but I want to make sure I at least verbally speak that piece up under that bridge. It is terrible and it's getting worse. So we can just make sure. And then always people drink water. That's it.
Yeah, and thank you for that. We'll have a further conversation on that. Right now, there's a lot of construction going on there. It wouldn't make very much sense to do that, but there has been some preliminary designs from MLK to Carolyn Creighton Park to basically take care of all those rumble strips. And we've had to have a lot of conversations with Big Brother. That's the railroad for a lot of that stuff there. And there's also some water that runs down there. We're trying to figure out where it comes from. So that is not lost on myself. Commissioner Wynn, I've got you, and then I've got Commissioner Wilder, and then Commissioner Watkins.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify, even though these roads are on this plan to do, the small potholes, like I just sent you an email about one on Northside Drive near Ortho, Georgia, will our road department still take care of those small pothole kind of things?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that road's not set for resurfacing. And this is deep patch asphalt resurfacing, so it's going to be a better job of just the pothole repair. Is that correct? 2 questions. This is a better repair, and then the potholes, we're still going to take care of those, aren't
Yes, ma'am.
we?
We're still doing potholes in-house. When we say a better repair, as I'm learning more of the hot mix versus the cold mix and the longevity of those repairs, I'm hesitant to give you an answer as to which works best because I have 2 sides telling me that it's the better process.
Okay.
So, but I do know that the contractor that we hired to do the longer patch work as opposed to the pothole work, we've seen great success with that. So if it's larger than the typical pothole, we're gonna go ahead and just do what we call the patch over it. And
So to answer your question, Commissioner Wynn, yes, we're going to continue. If you have potholes that need to be taken care of, if it's something that's a smaller project that our public works can handle, if it's something that needs more attention, we'll let the professional paving company come. Sometimes if you have one pothole, you're going to pay X amount of dollars to come repair.
Yeah.
So it's nicer to use the company when you have it spread it out, since there's a minimal payment on that. But you'll be able to still let your county manager know if there's an issue that your constituents are having a problem with. We will add that to the list of the professional paving company to do. And then at some point in time, we'll be back at this commission to amend a few things to allow the monies to be increased that we set aside in the original budget on that, because we want to see how this process was going to go. At the same time, we're going to look to add more asphalt pavers on there that can do these smaller projects, because it doesn't require all the bonding things, so we can spread the money out. Because we didn't have as much interest as I would like to have on that first time around.
Well, I just want our public to hear that we're still addressing small potholes in the areas that are not being resurfaced, and that those areas will be taken care of, because people will worry about that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was going to go ahead and say I vote to approve, move to approve, but there are two more people that want to speak, okay?
That's right. Thank you. Commissioner Wilder?
Ironic that what you just asked, I was going to elaborate on, because out in my area, I report a lot of small to large potholes. And I do want to go on record to say that we're going to continue having the small ones, and we have one crew that does that. And we do have another piece of equipment that we voted on a couple of years ago. It's a truck that can do hot asphalt. There were some problems with that when they first started running that truck. And I do want to go on record and say that I have watched that truck recently. They have gotten a lot better. Some of the repairs that I'm seeing they're doing that are a little bigger than just a small pothole is a lot better than it was when they first started using that piece of equipment. And but if well, the mayor was talking about some of the larger repairs that were not necessarily on this list. Heath Road is a fine example down near Thomaston Road, where they done about a 300 to 350 foot section. And I would have thought more of the road at first was needed, just giving my opinion. But once they done that, it took the emphasis off the rest of the road. It looks so much better down there right near the shopping center. That road looks a lot better. I think I've hit on my main points, but I did forget to ask one thing. We separated Columbus Road in 5 sections. We've done one section the first part of this year, I believe. And when do we expect to get, say, the second or third section?
At least 2 of those sections should be in my recommendation for the next set of roads.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder. Commissioner Watkins, and then back to Commissioner Bronson.
So I was curious on the pothole budget for the year. How much or how many, or can we quantify what that work looks like over the annual, or how it looked last year?
I don't think there's a specific pothole budget last year. It was just mixed up in public works. Initially, I think we put about $100,000 we delegated this year in this budget to the pothole project, which will go fairly quickly. So we'll need to mid-year, we were hoping to amend that to add additional funds, but we want to make sure this is something that was going to be successful before we started to do with that.
Real quick, we've already hit mid-year, or am I?
No, sir. With mid-year, we start in July, so mid-year is usually around January.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Bronson?
Hey, quick question in regards to I know we're doing sorry about that, guys. In regards to the shoulders, so I know we're doing a lot of the paving of the roads that have been identified as needing repair and so forth, but when we start talking about, and I'm gonna use Twin Pines as a good example here, Twin Pines is a very narrow road, so a lot of the reports that I'm getting is that if people are coming off of that road, their tires are getting flattened pretty much because they're hitting the crumbled sides of the roads. So how does that play a part in this particular project? Are we looking at that? Is that something that can be included? And I know it's not necessarily a pothole, but more so your crumbling shoulders. Do we have any play in that? Besides them staying on the road?
Yeah, I was about to say, they're running on the curb. I think there's another issue there. Right now, we're looking at the road, and asphalt paving is not necessarily your curb and sidewalk at this point in time, but whatever a normal asphalt would do. So
but
I would
guess
still notate those, Commissioner Bronson.
Yeah.
If you got those, contact the county manager. He's good about getting things addressed if you bring it to his attention, but if we don't know about them, we can't try to address them.
Tracking. I just know it's a thin road. I don't want to use the terminology wide in the road. I don't want to say that because, that'll be another fight in itself. But just to take a look at what we can do about kind of squaring it off if need be. Okay, thank you.
A note for the record that Commissioner Bronson wants to widen the roads to take down all the trees that he just planted. So good conversation. Looking forward to these roads. I think you'll see some online very soon, similar to our project that we've had for removing blighted structures. We want people to know the work that we're doing in our community and what commission has allocated from a budgetary standpoint. So you'll start seeing a little bit more activity online on the roads that get paved, so they'll know this. You may not drive down the roads that's getting paved, but you will know that they're getting paved in our community. And we're going to touch everybody we can. I do think the pothole repair project that we have going on with professional pavers is going to be something that's good for our community. Will save us money in the long run, but also will be very customer satisfaction issue. So this time, we do need a motion to approve this. We get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Wilder. Further discussion? Commissioner Watkins? Do you have, good? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item 6A is changes to policies and procedures manual. Is a ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to create a new section 2.07 of the Macon-Bibb County Government Policies and Procedures Manual entitled the Pre-Employment Qualifications so as to ensure a fair and reasonable hiring process by reassessing the pre-employment qualifications. This is something that Mayor Pro Tem Seth Clark had requested, and I'll be co-sponsoring that as well. And I'll have, you gonna do that, Dr. Moffitt, or Mayor Pro Tem?
This just allows us to align our pre-employment qualifications, which haven't been reviewed in quite some time, with what the state has done. The hiring process for the 21st century workforce is just different than it was when our pre-employment qualifications were written. And this allows the county manager to, it creates a section of the employment handbook to allow the county manager to assess the pre-employment qualifications to be on par with a workforce that's, where our technical college system is churning out more workers and certified to do jobs inside this county than, say, a traditional four-year university. It doesn't supplant degree requirements. It just makes sure that we have a fair hiring process that looks like the 21st century workforce and allows us to compete with regional hiring as well. These are changes that TCSG recommended at the state level, that USG recommended at the state level as well. Municipalities across the state are doing it, as are our private employers and public employers. This would allow us, for example, to be competitive with in the hiring process for appropriately certified people at the base, for example, where they wouldn't have one place where they could go. If we had an opening in, say, IT, where a certification from a technical college fit the bill and not a graduate degree, for example, that person would be competitive here. So that's what this does, and it gives flexibility to the county manager's office to write those qualifications.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Any questions regarding this particular item that's included in your packet? Here are no questions. We'll entertain a motion by Commissioner Clark. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Lucas. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Please feel free to let Ms. Ross know if you'd like to be a co-sponsor of that. I do think that's a great workforce development tool. Commissioner Lucas said she'd like to be added. Next, we're going to talk about a quitclaim deed, 7A, and I'll have our attorney come forward on that. This is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed in favor of Chris R. Sheridan and Company for the sale of property totaling 0.08 of an acre more or less of the former public alleyway of Jackson Lane for the fair market value of $4,581, and further authorizing the sale by public auction of the remaining 0.0001 of an acre more or less. And this time we'll hear from our attorney.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mayor Miller. I'm Adriana Beavers, Assistant County Attorney, and I'm here once again asking to sell off your property. We received a petition for the previously opened but long since functionally abandoned Jackson Lane, which is over near Schofield Street, near Chris R. Sheridan's offices in town, from the Sheridan Company. So this piece of property falls within our ability to sell by offer to abutting neighbors because of its size and shape. When we sent out the offer to the abutting neighbors, there was one, and they requested that they did want to purchase the portion that abuts their property. So what we're going to have to do with this one is that we're going to, if approved, execute a quitclaim to the Sheridan Company for 0.08 of an acre of that property, and then we'll also be having an auction for 1,000th of an acre, more or less, of that property. It's 384 square feet, but they're entitled to request to purchase that, and we'll have that auction next Tuesday at 4:30.
Thank you for that explanation. We're just jumping through the hoops that the law requires us to do. And the first property, we've done the appraisal. That's the fair market value of that property, and we've done that on multiple occasions. The other one will have an auction, and that'll be before our pre-commission meeting next Tuesday, and then we'll act accordingly on that. So this time I'll make a motion to approve. Do we have a second? I'm sorry, Commissioner Lucas, you had a question?
Could you explain why the difference in the process for Sheridan? I have no problems with this. I just need to understand why there's that difference.
So because there are two people, Sheridan is also interested in purchasing that 1,000th of an acre as part of the parcel. So because both parties are interested, we're putting it to auction to ensure we get the highest and best value and best use of that small portion of it.
Okay, but there's only one that's interested in,
In the main portion that the Sheridan Company is interested in, yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
doesn't seem fair.
Commissioner Wynn?
Is there more than one person on the small piece?
So the original petitioner, Chris R. Sheridan and Company, and then the abutting neighbor, they are both eligible to purchase this portion of the property.
The
So
smaller piece, the
yes,
point
that's
whatever.
that's the two interested parties.
Okay.
So Chris Sheridan petitioned to do both properties. He wanted to buy both properties that abut their property over on, off of Riverside Drive. The landowner nearby was not interested in the first property. They were interested in the small piece next to them, which is a 0.1 of an acre. Therefore, since we have more than one person interested, we're having an auction to get the best price for that.
Okay, I just didn't understand that as
Right.
in here when I was reading it.
No problem.
Mhm.
All right. We need a motion and a second on this one. I'll make the motion. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. I heard louder. No further questions. We'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries, will be sent to consent agenda. Item 8A is additions and changes to Macon-Bibb County Code. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 15 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances, create a fine schedule to provide for the uniform enforcement of municipal subject to said fine schedule. This is sponsored by Commissioner Virgil Watkins. This concerns certain fees regarding code enforcement. So this time, I believe the understanding is this is to make it more efficient, allow people to pay some fines on this in a more consistent manner prior to coming to court, so they would not have to be in court to waste a day, and also code enforcement won't have to go back to do a re-inspect and show up at court as well. But I'll let the lawyer talk about the legalese on that. And first, identify yourself, sir.
All right. And I am Assistant County Attorney Frank Howard. That's all correct what the mayor stated about this proposed ordinance. It also only specifically applies to the enumerated code sections that are listed in section 1522A. So it's limited to nuisances as defined in section 15.1, sections 302 and 303 of the International Property Maintenance Code 2018 edition, which deals with the exteriors of properties, as well as the standards for boarding a window, which is regulated elsewhere in our standards for boarding a vacant building, as passed in Resolution R210019.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Watkins, would you like to add anything, sir?
Yeah, just a few items. So the main purpose, one of the things that I think we experience, or I see a good bit, a lot of our housing stock, some of our garden apartments can end up in disrepair and blight. And our current process, it takes a while. In order, even for something as simple as an inoperable vehicle or overgrown grass, in order for us to actually cite somebody, you would have to go to court first, which could be a 3-4 month process, and they could appeal and do all types of other things. This would allow it to be kind of like a parking ticket or a speeding ticket, and whereas we visually saw that your grass is over, you agree, here's your ticket, you can pay it off without ever going to court in a matter of days. First fine would be $150. If they kept on going, they came back to and cited you for the same thing, it would escalate to $500 would be the highest after the fourth occurrence. Yeah, I think those are the main points.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. I appreciate that. Commissioner Wynn?
Yes, sir, thank you. I look at this favorably. I like the idea. I just wonder who's going to enforce it. Is code enforcement going to come back out and look at it for the second fine if it's not
Code
completed?
enforcement already does this now.
Okay, but-
It will save their time from having to go back and re-inspect it before they go to court. It saves the citizen, allows them an opportunity to pay the ticket without having to come to court, to waste a day in court as well when they admit.
But code enforcement has to go back out and look at it, right? For the second or third
If
fine?
they get a complaint or they aware of the, when they do their canvass of the areas for multiple, generally it doesn't happen unless there's a complaint by neighbors, honestly. So they will go back out, but they already do that now anyway, for a second or third violation. I think that when people acknowledge that they're gonna pay the ticket and they did something wrong, you're not gonna have to go back for a reinspection.
Well, you
It's the
never
ones that just
know.
ignore it that have the problem.
You never know, but I think this is a good idea. Yeah. They do go back, okay. Well, I see boarded up houses sometimes like on these blighted properties and I just wonder who goes back and checks on them when the board's gone and
Well, those boarded out houses are different.
well, I
Not
mean,
necessarily talking about those right now, but they're a different process.
just a boarded up window in a house that's still occupied,
Okay.
you know?
Mr. Lucas?
Yeah, explain just a little bit more the process, because I really need to have more definition as to what that process looks like. Now, code enforcement comes, they look, they find a violation, they leave,
They leave a citation.
leave,
They give you a citation, and then basically you have a court date that you show up for to present your case. Sometimes it gets continued. The judge hears a case, and there's a process there. But if you, and honestly, before they go to court, the code enforcement goes right back over there to make sure you haven't moved the car, or if you have moved the car, things happen. I'm just saying that on you, not because you had a car that had to be moved.
thank you very much. We had two.
So, and she moved them, or her husband did. But same thing with the grass, because you don't want someone to show up to court and say, Your Honor, here's the pictures of my yard. It looks perfectly clean, and there's no cars there. If you had been there the day before to inspect it, you'd have known that. But sometimes they show up and say, I've cleaned it, and we have pictures showing, no, you have not. The car is still there. I went by there yesterday. So there's always the checks and balances. But this allows someone the opportunity to not have to take a day off work to go do a fine. Otherwise, they would have to go to court. Takes 3 or 4 months to clear the schedule, taking up the court's time, taking up the code enforcement's time. So it's more efficient. I appreciate Commissioner Watkins putting this forward. It's going to allow us to do more with the code enforcement we have and do a better, more efficient job.
Okay, so there is still the notification, that first notification. Then upon reinspection, then that's the ticket. Is that right?
So,
Yeah, I'll let him explain it.
and Frank might be better to answer this. So the same process, if the code enforcement officer desires, the same process still can exist. What we're adding is a uniformed fee schedule, essentially. So right now, when you receive a citation from our code enforcement, you won't know what you owe or if you owe anything until you go to court, and also it's at completely the judge's discretion, which in some cases the judge could go too far or could not do enough, and we've had complaints on both sides. But this sets up a set and fine fee schedule. Everyone who receives a citation, your first fine is $150. You can still go to court if you would like to and appeal it and argue the case, show it with your lawyer if you want to. But if you agree you did something wrong, it's over at that point. You pay the $150 and we all move on.
Right, I just don't want this process to go straight to ticket. Ticket should not be the first. I think there should be that notification and that information, because everybody doesn't have all the information that we have or that code enforcement has or attorneys might have or other folks who might have.
So just for full disclosure, and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, excuse me, if this would give the officer, just like a regular police officer, the ability to, if they wanted to, write you a ticket. They also have the discretion, as they do now, to write a warning, but this does add the ability to write a ticket into their options. Right now, don't have that option. The only thing they can do is send you to court for whatever comes next, or issue a warning.
Okay, all I'm saying is there needs to be that warning, that awareness phase where people are made aware that there's an infraction. There may be some people who do not know that there's that infraction. Little old lady might not know that there's an infraction, so I want to make sure that there's that notification first. And I don't think the officers, the code enforcement officers, need to have the discretion. You need to have a process that's followed so you make sure that nobody can be accused of targeting somebody. You know, you gave them a ticket, but you gave them the notification information. So that, to me, that discretion doesn't need to be there on that. There needs to be the notification with the information on what you're doing wrong and what you need to do to fix it, or this can happen. And then, upon reinspection, then the ticket. I just think that's the fair way to do it. And you've got somebody coming out with a gun, too. They need to come with information first. And that's just my feeling on it. But I'm glad to see that there's some attention being paid to this, because there does need to be additional information, because I'm trying to remember if I got all my information on my 2 cars. I'm not quite sure. I got all the information. But those are just my concerns. So tell me that what I'm thinking is the way that this is gonna happen.
It's not.
It's not. So,
It's not.
but if I may, so it's not, and part of it, I think, it definitely when me and Attorney Howard were talking, my focus and what I'm dealing with is situations like Green Meadows Apartments, River Bend Apartments, where the concept of protecting the little old lady or the single homeowner who's living in their house wasn't really factoring into, I think, our policy making. It's trying to do something with folks that are dealing with mold over multiple months and not having any resolution. How those two can overlap or provide protection for, to your point, the little old lady. I'm not sure if we have, and if so, how would we? I understand your point, but it didn't go into my.
Don't those things fall, though, in a category of emergency, and that allows for the additional actions? I would think that those kinds of things would be a different category.
So the problem that I'm having is that they're happening so frequently in these apartment complexes, and just mass numbers of landlords in general. And our discipline process is too slow and too low of a fee to, again, incentivize the owners to rapidly want to, again, come in there and fix the stuff. Because that's the issue that I'm trying to address here. How we protect, I guess, single family or occupied owner-owned structures within this, I think, is a worthy conversation, though.
All right. Commissioner Wynn?
Thank you. I'm a little confused here because Commissioner Watkins said the first incident would be a citation with a ticket of 150 issued. Now we're going and saying, yeah, they can give a warning. It doesn't address warnings in here.
It's not a warning. Right now, the current law is they can go out there to give a citation, and they have a right to be heard. So there's not a citation that's been ruled against until they have their day in court. His attempt is to have a more efficient process. I think you run into issues when you start trying to give warnings to everybody. We're creating multiple.
Well, I mean, that came up, and that's why I'm asking. They are allowed, because Commissioner Lucas was asking, are these little old ladies, talking about me, of course, allowed to be given a warning so that they don't get a ticket on the first shot at it, you know? So that's where I'm a little bit confused. Is the first incident a citation with a ticket, or is it a warning?
The first instance, as it currently reads, is a first offense for $150.
Okay, so that's not a warning, that's a
That's
ticket.
not a warning. That's what I thought that's what I was telling. That's what I'm telling Commissioner Lucas. This reads
Yeah,
that the first offense is $150.
so there's nothing in here that addresses a warning for
That's
the
what I'm
first
saying. There's no warnings in here currently. Would need to be amended in some type of way if that's what the body wants to do. But full disclosure, this would be first offense, $150. I think maybe where you got confused is the officers. If he wanted to be nice, he has the option to provide discretion, but that's not in this. That's not in this bill anyway.
That's all I want to know is
Right.
that they have that option, like an officer would have an option to give a warning instead of the ticket. So, but it just didn't address it, and that came up in this conversation. So make sure that we know that they have an opportunity to have a warning instead of just a ticket.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Jones?
That one?
Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir. To Commissioner Watkins, on the fine schedule, first offense was 150. What was the second and third, and how did you come to those numbers?
The fine schedule should be included in your package, but basically, I think he got those from best practices from other jurisdictions that utilize those already. I know Dublin is one of those areas that uses
So it's
it.
150.
250,
I'm
500.
looking at it. So what was it? Second is 250.
Third is 500.
And I think he's just looking for consistency, because you're not that the judge ever has a bad day, but you don't want to go in there, one day it's 150, and the next day it's 250. There's maximum fines, I assume, over there as well, Attorney Howard.
The judge still has, this allows a choice for the person who receives the citation. And the choice is either to go have their day in court where the judge will rule on this matter, or to avoid a day in court and in lieu of court pay a fine. This also does not preclude code enforcement if it's a violation such as grass being more than 12 inches, as an example. If code enforcement issues the notice of violation and citation, and prior to the court date, the owner cuts the grass, the code enforcement specialist would still be able to dismiss the matter without a fine being issued to the person. This provides a secondary option for the person who receives a violation to pay a fine in lieu of going to court if the person so chooses. The person may also choose to go to court and be heard by the judge and have the judge issue a decision on an appropriate fine.
Thank you.
So in the ordinance, it does not give the code enforcement officer the option of giving someone a warning. That's not stated in the ordinance.
That is not stated in the ordinance as written.
That's never stated. And the officer pulls you over, there's not stated in the law that he has an option to giving you a warning. That's just, it's common sense, but it's also, you got to have discretion in some situations. And discretion is like everything else. You can't abuse it. You can't have bad folks in there. That's just normal process. But this will streamline the effort. I think that it'll make it a more fair process for the citizen. I think by changing it to requiring a warning, then you're going to kill the bill, I mean, personally. So,
well, I'm not saying mandatory. I'm just saying, does he have the option?
always have discretion. They have discretion right now when they go to houses already that are appear to be blighted on certain options they have. It's what we entrust them to do. Mr. Lucas?
I really do think that the intention, I understand, is right, and I agree with Commissioner Watkins on the intent of uniformity, but I still have a concern on the front end with someone who this is code enforcement. This is someone's home that you're coming to, that an officer is coming to with a firearm. And I never have understood why.
Let me just clear something up for one instance.
You're gonna.
I don't want you get into a rabbit hole. 23 code enforcement officers.
You don't know what I'm getting into.
I'm just telling you, they don't
so
all carry firearms. I don't want you to mistakenly think that every code enforcement officer that goes to a house has a firearm, because that's not true. There's a few sworn
They
deputies.
are
out there.
allowed to have firearms.
Only the sworn deputies that the sheriff has sworn in as an officer to help him carry out his job.
Great.
In the
Are
community.
you going to let me finish?
Yes, ma'am. Just
what
want to
I'm
make sure you're
saying?
clear.
They are allowed to have firearms. And I make that point because I think it's too much. I think you're supposed to be code enforcement. And I don't understand the situation where you would need to have a firearm to go and give somebody a ticket for a car with the tires with no air in them. However, I'm thinking of citizens who have some violations. Obviously, if the code enforcement goes there, this is not a criminal that you're chasing down. This is not somebody that's speeding, and the other reference to giving a ticket on the road or something. This is different. These are our citizens who pay the salaries of the folks who are coming to issue them this ticket. Tell me what happens if someone gets a ticket, they go to court, they have not remedied the situation. What happens? What happens?
And Commissioner, if someone is cited for a violation and chooses not to pay a fine and they go to court, under this ordinance, the judge would be allowed to issue community service as a penalty. If the issue is not remedied, they could, they could issue community service, a fine in accordance with the general penalty in response to a violation of our code.
A lot of our citizens, this would be their first and only interaction with the legal system. And we're going to create a situation where they've got a car where there's no air in the tires. It's a violation. They get a ticket to go to court. That's what, $150? They're not able to remedy their situation. And so I'm just thinking like that citizen. And their only interaction is to get that ticket first.
The court would have discretion. The court would have discretion to not.
We need to clear something up because I think that's not the only option. I think we're just looking at the changes here as opposed to what's not being changed. And there's a 15-day requirement that they have 15 days to take care of all this under the original. That's not part of this code change that Commissioner Watkins is asking for, but they already have a 15-day period to correct it, so there's not have to be a citation issue.
Can I read that? I think that's because y'all are. Yeah, thank you. Y'all are only dealing with the fine schedule here, and I'm going to ask Frank this because you're the nuisance man, so you know everything about this code. I'm looking at Muni Code, and you're talking about the conditions constituting nuisance that this would apply to, things like Commissioner Lucas is talking about, like tires or weeds or whatever, and that's what it's meant to deal with. And then I've got under, I just had it. Hold on a second. Yeah, hold on. Here we go. There's a provision in the nuisance code that does not give the landowner 15 days to remediate.
That is correct, yes.
Before the ticket they have to go to court. In other words, if they do the remediation in 15 days, under what I'm reading at least, then that would take care of the problem. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding.
But if they don't do it within 15 days, then this is added. You see what I'm saying?
Right, and that makes sense. Is there a notification, the first encounter, is there that notification in writing, in plain language for citizens, everybody at every educational level can understand it? Is there a document that that person is given that explains all that?
Yes, and this ordinance would not change that.
Okay, can I see a copy of that document?
Yeah, let me,
And I think everybody needs to take a look at it.
I'm pulling it up. I just had it and I deleted it.
I believe it's under 15.4 and 15.5.
Because I know there has to be, if we're dealing with citizens, I know there has to be some form, maybe a one-pager that has simple language that everybody can understand, that's given to somebody if they are guilty of an infraction.
Read 15.4 if you would, Frank.
Whenever a nuisance in violation of this chapter is found to exist within the jurisdiction of Macon-Bibb County, the municipal court or state court shall issue a written order and notice to abate to the owner, agent in control of, or tenant in possession of the property upon which such nuisance exists, or upon the person causing or maintaining the nuisance to abate.
Excuse me, is that the writing that's on the actual document that somebody receives? With the words abate and what are those other words in there?
I can.
So let me answer her
Y'all
question.
answer, yeah.
I'm gonna answer your question. It's 15.14, and I don't know the document, but this is what the ordinance says, and I think it's in this document, so you can confirm with me, Frank. 15-14, which is the law right now, says that the code enforcement shall notify in writing the occupant of such condition that the conditions existing upon the property constitute a notice and setting forth the actions to be taken to eliminate the conditions within 15 days, or if it's 30, if it's an industrial area. Failure of the owner to occupant to eliminate the conditions constituting a nuisance within the 15-day period or 30-day, depending if it applies, shall constitute an offense. So they give them something in writing, is my understanding, for the 15-day period to run.
Is it that wording that's on
I can't tell you that. I just know what's in the ordinance.
I
I
would think simpler language would be in order for any document that's given to someone. I just have some concerns. I hope that there's some additional work done, and I would like to see in writing from code enforcement what their process is, what they understand the process to be. And also, I'd like to put myself in the place of a citizen who receives this so that I can understand exactly what happens in the process. If I can get that action, which I think is perfectly reasonable, and it helps us to explain it to the citizens, that the 20-something plus thousand citizens that we represent, then I can support it because of the intent of it. But I would like to see that there is a document that people receive if they've got an infraction that says you have an infraction, you have these are your violations in simple language, not abate and the shall and the will and all of that, just simple language. And then what happens to you if you don't abide by this? Can I get an agreement from somebody that we can do that? Is there anybody who's against simple language for citizens to be able to understand what the process is?
We'll get you that language, Commissioner, but I think if you do nothing today,
I want code enforcement to have that as their.
We'll get you the language and have you review it to see if you think that's plain enough. If not, we can consider changing.
Well, I certainly will tell them to.
Okay. Are we ready to take a vote on this? Commissioner Wynn?
Yeah, just ask, or make a clarification, because Attorney Groover just read this 15.14, and it says they will issue a citation explaining what the issue is. So if there's a citation, little piece of paper like you get a speeding ticket, and it says cut the grass, that's pretty plain and simple to me. or you need to board up the window, or you need to do this. I think that's going to be on the citation, so it'll be not this wording we're saying here that's in the code, it's going to be on the citation. Am I correct on that? That
That's
they
what's
can write
supposed-
the simple language that's going to be on the citation, so they'll know what they're getting the citation for.
It's usually
So,
about 5 or 6 words, but yeah, I think that's the language on there.
something like you got a speeding ticket, or you ran a stop sign,
But
or you
we
didn't
will
cut your
still,
grass.
we'll still get the information to Commissioner Lucas so she can review it.
That's not on there. And y'all know it needs to be.
Well, it says the citation will say, no, he just read it. He just read it. He just read and said that.
I understand both of y'all right. So at this time, I think we take a vote on there. Commissioner Watkins, I'll take that as a motion to approve by you, sir. Can we get a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion will carry to be sent to consent agenda, and we're going to take a 10-minute break and come back and learn more about Parks Recreation. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We are at a presentation from Macon-Bibb County Recreation. We're back on the record. Woo, we got that passed without you. Thanks for your vote. All right, we're going to hear today this is an information session. There's nothing on the agenda as far as a vote as of this moment. We had been talking about this for a few months, and we took some tours a while back on a Tuesday to various recreation departments and parks that still had funding left from the 2018 SPLOST. We've asked Director Robert Walker to come today and present the amount of money that we have at each one of those parts that were set aside as a wish list for items to be completed. It was purposely, I think, set up for the end of the SPLOST period of time because a lot of money had been spent on recreation prior to that. Sometimes the needs for the community changes. We don't know how equipment holds up, and I see what you're doing there. So we want to make sure that we had him bring us up to date. So he's done an assessment for each one of these places. You'll see the amount there listed. You'll see his recommendations. He's going to do a PowerPoint, I believe, and then he'll make some recommendations. There are various commissioners that are assigned to those areas. Of course, we're a committee as a whole. All 9 commissioners matter and their votes matter on this commission, but we are asking for at least the district leaders in those areas where these funds are being spent to kind of lead the conversation, the effort once we get to a point in time. Today is just information, and if you could hold your questions until he gets through the presentation, it will be helpful for him and for us to discuss that at one point in time. And we realize that when these funds were budgeted quite some time, things have changed, prices have increased, and the money doesn't go as far as it used to go. At the same time, we've asked Mr. Walker to come here today to give you an update on what he believes, hearing from the community and being there more often than we are at these facilities on some recommendations, and then the commissioners can take that information for whatever it's worth, and we'll make the decisions accordingly. So this time, Director Walker, I'll ask you to come up to the microphone, speak directly into that so everyone at home can hear you as well, and then you can begin any comments you want to have as well as your PowerPoint if you're ready to proceed with that. Good morning.
On the rec department and where we are. Right now, as you know, we have 14 rec centers. 11 of those are what we consider general rec centers. The other 3 are tennis, 2 tennis and 1 pickleball facility. So over the past year, tracking numbers, our numbers at rec centers have been anywhere between 12,000 and 15,000. We did have a record year this year on summer camp. We had 840 spots for summer camp this year, and we were able to fill 820 at those locations. As well as we hosted several other camps through summer as well. So we're going to take a little short look at each rec center, some of the programming that they have there. Everybody has general programming from the after-school program, adult free play basketball. Some of them have adult free play volleyball, after-school program, summer camp, and teen and mentoring programs as well. As you look at South Bibb, which is on the screen now, it has turned into sort of our fitness facility. A lot of our fitness programs happen there. Of course, you know that's the largest fitness location we have with the Matrix equipment, but we also have acro dance, Zumba, acro yoga, teen boot camp, homeschool physical education, and garden for kids. The average monthly attendance there is anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 people. Next, we have Memorial Park. Of course, that was on the splash. We did those things, those improvements in 2016. The average monthly attendance there is 1,900 individuals. Again, we have stand-up programming just as all, and going to the special programs. We have aerobic with Lisa, Zumba with Tracy. The Pinocchio group that used to be at Frank Johnson moved to the Senior Center, is now at Memorial Park, and they have told me that they will not move anywhere else. They want to stay at Memorial. We also have a Narcotics Anonymous program there, as well as a mentoring program called Gentlemen's Club, as well as we do some financial literacy classes there. Of course, everybody knows the Elaine H. Lucas Senior Center. The average amount of people attending there is 1,500 to 2,000. Their program is a little bit different, designed for seniors with mental Mondays, chair yoga, chair exercises, senior trips. They just got back from, they went to a casino in North Carolina. I can't remember. Harrah's in North Carolina. So they went to Harrah's in North Carolina for a senior trip, spent a couple days there. And then special programming, they do fishing on Fridays. They have a 5K walk run in Callan Creighton Park every so often. They have several cook and bake contests that my assistant director behind us goes to quite often and judges. And Christmas parties, a host of events for the seniors to have, as well as an intergenerational program where the seniors are allowed to bring their grandkids into the facility and they do joint activities. Bloomfield Gillett, that's one, of course, off Rocky Creek. The average attendance there is 900 to 1,000 people, as well as the standard programming. But one of the special programs there is the partnership between Middle Georgia Regional Library, where we have a library site on that side of town, as well as community yard sales, free play soccer. We have a coordinator one that we recently hired that's really into boxing, so he's training boxers at Bloomfield as well, and they do participate over in Freedom Park at the Macon-Bibb United Boxing Program. Also, they have the Brunch for Bingo, and they have STEM programs going on, which we have labeled this facility as our STEM location. So we try to do a lot of STEM programs there. We kind of work with Southwest with some things as well in their STEM program, so bringing some of those activities over to Bloomfield, as well as the STEM programs inside of the library that's there also. Dolores A. Brooks, as you know, this is our dual site that houses our adaptive program. The average attendance there is 800 to 1,000 people. Their standard program is a little bit different. While we do have an after-school program, we do a lot of adult free play for basketball, but we also have the adaptive enrichment program where we have daycare facilities that come into our facility and use our amenities as far as adaptive goes, as well as the special programming for adaptive cooking classes. Special Olympics, our center supervisor is the chair of Special Olympics for Macon-Bibb. He's the local coordinator here, as well as they have dances, adaptive bowling, and community fun night as well. And we also kicked off our teen RC program. Freedom Park is a little bit different. It's a specialized center where we focus on boxing. The average monthly attendance is 350 to 500. It is a paid membership to be there. We do intro to boxing classes, adult boxing training, advanced youth boxing, and adult boxing classes. When it comes to the special programming, we have a youth competitive team. There are about 10 members on that team right now that actually compete. They have gone several different locations to compete, won several belts as well. And we've had 2 to fight in the Junior Olympics for youth. So one went to Wisconsin one year, one went to Mobile, Alabama. And so we also have our annual anniversary boxing match, which is this weekend as well. We have one every year, as well as several other ones. And we also host the Silver Gloves through Georgia boxing program. So we've hosted that the last 4 years. They like coming to Macon-Bibb, coming here, is centrally located for them. So we expect a good turnout for that. But again, we have our anniversary boxing match this weekend. L.H. Williams, you know, that's a partnership between the Board of Education. We have control of the gymnasium, the the cafeteria, and a multipurpose room from 3:30 to 8. We have a after-school program, and that is one of our largest after-school programs that we host 50 kids there. Everybody else averages between 20 to 25. They have 50 kids there. We have limited spacing, so that doesn't give us a lot of opportunity to do stuff because the school is still in session with meetings and things like that. But we do have a chess and community youth robotics program with coding. Making ambitious young men that's a citywide program that we're doing throughout all rec centers for boys aged 7 to 17 to do mentorship. And we're kicking that off everywhere. So they do father-daughter dance, mother and son, donuts for dads, muffins for moms, and they do a Thanksgiving Day meal every year. Rosa Jackson, the average attendance there is 1,500 to 2,000 people. They had a stand-up programming. As you can see, the special programming is they're going to celebrate National Women's Police Day, breadwinners, healthy eating habits, I Am Him mentoring team basketball programs, breast cancer awareness. But we also have Mr. Morgan, who's very into fitness. He has several adult fitness classes over there and biking programs as well. And again, that's another site that we have Thanksgiving in the neighborhood. Frank Johnson, average attendance there is 1,200 to 1,500. We still had a stand-up program after school, adult free play, out-of-school camps, teen and mentorship programs. But the special programming is our teen communications. I can't talk enough about that. Again, we bought $12,000 worth of video equipment for these kids. We have 20 kids that are there all the time. They do basketball games around the local schools, as well as they broadcast a lot of our Parks and Rec events. They're learning how to use video equipment as well as edit. And so they really enjoy that program, and I can say that's a program that's citywide. All those kids are from different areas in this city, and they come to Frank Johnson to participate in that program. As well as we have free play volleyball, ladies' night, and family fun, or some of the special programs at Frank Johnson. Third Nursery Park, of course, the stand-up programming is there as all of them, but we have a real strong senior line dance class. They did come to the senior center during the time that there were renovations at Third Nursery, but as soon as we finished, they wanted to go back to Third Nursery Park. So I did allow them to go back. I tried to keep them at the senior center, but they wanted to go back there. We have an all-sports training program by one of our coordinators. The special programming there is a gymnastics, homeschool physical education, game night. They have a Memorial Day 5K run every year that they start in Carolyn Creighton Park, and billiards and card tournaments as well. Kings Park is one that I'm excited about. We took over operations of that from the community about 2 years ago and staffed that one. The average monthly attendance is anywhere between 200 to 250 people. But what we're doing there is changing that community. We have an after-school program that the kids come to every day, mentorships, the King Park Family Fun Day and Kids Supply Drive that we do every year. We give away after-school supplies as well, after-school supplies, as well as the King Park Neighborhood Meeting. The King Park Neighborhood Group is very instrumental in what we do. We bring them along with everything that we do. We ask for their suggestions because they are staples in that community. And they kind of give us some guidance on things that they need there. So they're active with us. So we're expecting things to grow. We have now hired a totally new staff there. A couple of my staff members moved on to other things. So they have to develop a relationship with their community, but we expect to see things, additional things coming in the future. All right, so SPLOST, we all are familiar that we had a chance to do some improvements to several locations. And now we are looking at Fillmore Thomas Park. The budget is $2.7 million. As you can see, I have put some bullet points there of the construction of a splash pad pump house, the repair of the splash pad system, installation of a rubber surface for the playground, upgrading and expanding of the existing restrooms, construction of a new pavilion at the location, covering existing entertainment pad, which we're familiar with, enclosing and existing pavilions, covering existing basketball courts, and the possibility of a neighborhood community center. The things in green are things that I'm pretty sure that we can get done. The things in yellow are what I would consider maybe it's a possibility to do that. It's just some things that we would have to look at as a whole to do. I have supplied a diagram, as you can see. The red circles are where the rubber surface would go. And as also the second red, the smaller red circle is the actual splash pad that's there now. We have some issues with that splash pad. A lot of vandalism was happened to that splash pad, but we have a budget to repair that. But one of the main things that we figured out when we did the first construction of this park is the playground is too close to the splash pad, which causes a lot of mulch to go over into that filter system, is why I'm recommending that we do rubber mulch. That will allow that system to function and not get debris in it from the actual mulch, because it gets in the system, it clogs it clogs up the nozzles, and it prevents it from functioning properly. There are three small squares, two labeled PAV. Those are suggestions for new pavilions. We may be able to do one. I would like to do two, but that's just a suggestion for those to go there, as well as you can see the third one below is the restroom and the pump house that we need to combine. One of the issues that we have is our system there, unlike any other system, is exposed and outdoors. The Georgia heat, as well as it being accessible by other people, is causing a lot of those issues. So we need to close that location in, close that system in to only allow employees to be able to get in to do maintenance work, and that will give us some time to keep that system going, and only people that are authorized to be in there can go in. As you see the squares with the openings, there's a small square at the top of your screen. That is the existing entertainment pad. The whole goal from when constructing this was allowing people to do entertainment, concerts, things like that, and use it as a small amphitheater in that area. I would suggest that we put a top over it, covering over that as well. There's power there to do things, as well as it could be a rentable space also when it comes to pavilion rentals as well. The one in the center, yellow, is the existing pavilion. The suggestion is to close that in. That's one of the things that's a possibility. And then the green squares are the current courts, where the suggestion has been to cover those as well. Those are some things that are possibilities that we can look at. And then, as you can see, there's an aqua blue.
I don't know if your color is a little different from ours, or either that or I'm colorblind, but it looks yellow to me, but maybe there's a little green on the outside.
Well, goldish.
Okay.
Does it look gold?
Gold, that'll work.
Okay, gold.
Yeah. I don't see any green on this screen here for the most part, so I want to make sure we're looking at the same pictures.
Yeah, and the aqua blue color is where we would need drainage. There's an issue with water running off the hill, running onto the course. It makes it unplayable after a rainstorm. So it takes some time for that sun to dry that up. So to at least make it playable again after rain, then we just kind of put some French drains that allow that water to go in and run off. Frank Johnson. Frank Johnson budget is $2.3 million. As you can see, we're suggesting a building addition with a weight room, storage room, and computer lab, a new playground, replacing furniture and equipment that's there, expanding and renovating parking area, a new softball field, new multi-purpose field was a possibility, new tennis court, construction of a new pavilion, resurfaced blacktop basketball courts with new goal systems, replacing swimming pool surface in the pump house, replacing the fencing around the swimming pool, adding in a new sign to identify the location, as well as adding some security cameras and site lighting. Here's the diagram that we put in. The existing basketball court, which is a neon green, will stay in the same location. We would just need to put in new goal systems and do some covering of that court surface and resurfacing. As you can see, the baseball and softball field, an option of if two, we may be able to only get one, but I want to put that option of putting a baseball and a baseball softball field there and possibly a multi-purpose if we can. A tennis facility, tennis center, a tennis court, I'm sorry, putting it next to the pavilion where I have proposed in the orange of moving a pavilion there where the existing playground is. Taking the existing tennis court, as you see where it used to be, and turn that into parking, creating more parking in the front of the building, and access to that front of that building. We definitely need more parking there. So with that, we will have to move the tennis court, so we will move it up closer to the pavilion and the playground. Of course, a new playground, relocating that. The orange blocks near the building are building additions. As I discussed, a weight room, storage area, and computer lab. As you can see, the pool is below to have a liner put in, and next to the pool, you see another orange block. That block would be a renovation of the pool house. The pool house that we have now, the components in it are now deteriorating due to the chlorine, and there are new things that we can put in that won't deteriorate as quick as they are with the chlorine and the gases that are there. As well as there's another parking lot at the corner of Mercer and Pinona, and then the orange block at the red corner would be assigned to identify.
Robert, I hate to interrupt you. I'm not going to ask a question.
Okay.
But I do want commissioners to know that we'll give them this PowerPoint if they don't already have it, to make sure they don't have to take too many copious notes here and listen to what you're saying. But we'll give you a copy of this PowerPoint so you can have all the information broken down as well.
Memorial Park, the splash budget is $2.4 million. Again, we did a renovation in 2016, and the proposed recommendations are constructing a new pavilions, replacing furniture and equipment, renovation of existing basketball court, a new youth softball field with lighting, new multipurpose field with lighting, renovation of existing parking lot, additional parking lots, a decorative fence, new pool deck lighting, renovation of pool pavilions, renovation of swimming pool restrooms and showers with connection to the existing building, new tennis court, a facility sign, and a new playground. And we have a design that I've come up with again. Right now, we know that the court is located closer to the building. I would like to relocate the basketball court to one of the previous locations, resurface it, and give it new goal systems as well as new fencing. An expansion of the playground that's there now, and improving that, positioning two pavilions closer to the current playground, current playground and an expansion of that one, as well as moving a tennis court on that area as well. As you can see, the baseball field, proposing a new baseball field and a multipurpose field, if it can fit, and then improving the parking lot locations as well. The two smaller purple squares are where the current pavilions are for the pool. Those have aged, and we need to look at renovating those, as well as the larger one where it says pool and RR, that's the pool and restroom, where the showers are, the lifeguard area is. We need to expand that and improve that as well. The orange, the yellow or gold, yellow striping that you see is expanding the sidewalks. Right now, if you're coming to the pool and parking in the front parking lot, you would need to walk all around to enter the pool, and we need to put a dedicated sidewalk there that's ADA accessible to be able to go around, and maybe that will keep people on the sidewalk. As well as by the parking lot, we have created a natural path behind the pool for people to park that they walk through to get to the front of the building. Just by assisting with that natural path is just putting a sidewalk there to people so people can walk there as well. And closer to the front of the building, you will see the road at 2nd Street. You'll see a purple block that'll put a sign there as well, identifying that location. All right, so I'll entertain questions if there are questions.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, for that presentation. Again, we'll get commissioners a copy of all that as well. But we'll let them start asking questions now. My understanding, based on this color code that you did, we have a certain amount of funds set aside for each one of these projects. You mentioned those 2.3, 2.4, maybe 2.7 are three of those. And the goal is to determine which projects are perhaps the total amount of cost and how many projects we can do of each one of these. But at some point in time, the commissioners, in your advice, commissioners need to set priorities so we can send those things out for an RFP to see how, get those things completed. But in your presentation, the color coordinated, the reason you did that is to suggest priorities that you see there on site. Is that right?
Correct.
So at this time, we entertain questions from commissioners regarding any of these parks that we're spending money on, preferably. Commissioner Wynn?
Yes, sir, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for your presentation. We were looking forward to that. Some of these items, like, I'm gonna just use the casino trip. Those are items that people pay extra money for, right?
Yes, so the seniors, we just facilitated, they pay extra money to do those trips.
Are there other programs that have to, did you say at the boxing they have to pay a fee?
Yeah, the boxing center is a membership only.
Okay, is that just boxing at that?
Just for the boxing center.
Do you have a Parkinson's plan or for boxing, you know, at that particular location?
So before COVID, we had a Rocksteady program at Freedom Park. And it was every Monday and Wednesday morning from 9 to 11. That program no longer exists at our location. It was a partnership with Atrium Navison Health because they provided the nurses and the rehabilitation staff members to be there while the program was going on. That was mandatory that we had to have that.
Well, would you consider reinstating that, or can you reinstate that program?
I have been having discussions with Atrium Navison about doing it. At this point in time, they have not gotten back with me on it because it's going to require their staffing to be there at that location. Okay. So that was just something that at that point in time, we had to discontinue because we lost that extra staff.
Okay.
But we do have two certified Rocksteady coaches at our facility, and they're still certified. It's just that we don't have the medical staff to be present while they're there.
Okay, that's good. I also wanted to know what Korean Tang Soo Do is. It's out at South Macon Park. It sounds like a dance of some kind. He didn't mention that because he probably didn't know what it was.
I probably missed over that one.
I don't know what it is. I was just kind of curious. And I didn't hear anything about the North Macon Park. I'm just kidding. You know, I always bug the mayor about a North Macon Park on Northside Drive, but maybe some of this extra funds will go to that.
Come out to the Lizola Park. I'll show you around out there.
Well,
we don't have one of those either. Okay. All right. Any other questions regarding these particular items from Mayor Pro Tem Clark?
Yeah, in the prioritization for Frank Johnson Center, I really appreciate the playground upgrades being in it, and I was just wondering if the budgeting for that includes the ADA modifications that we previously discussed.
So I just put in the presentation that we will look at a new playground, not identifying what kind of playground it would be. It is my suggestion that we look at an architect coming in, doing a rendering of what we plan to put there and seeing what we can. And we'll then have to prioritize from there. That's just my recommendation. And that's exactly what we did with the last splash. We kind of put everything out that we wanted to get done. We brought in an architect, and then they did a rendering of that location and gave us estimates on what things would cost and the possibility of certain things. So that's what I would suggest with that, because I did not identify if it was be all-inclusive or it would just be a normal 2 to 5, 5 to 12 playground. I just kind of left that out there.
And then after we got those estimates, we would be able to prioritize them, based on financial need?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And I also just want to add that I've reached out to the school system, and not to get any pertinent information as far as identifying any particular children's, but I did want to see if there's a way that they could give information based on their environment of perhaps where a lot of our children, especially these children, reside at, to kind of see if they're all associated in one particular area or near a particular park or not. We haven't received that information yet, but I will be following that up to kind of give us an idea of the number that we're looking at and the locations they may live at, in case that becomes a consideration at some point in time. I had Commissioner Howell, then Watkins, and then Lucas.
Always thank you for all you do for the Parks and Recreation. I think a lot of people don't understand. They hear Parks and Recreation and don't understand all the moving parts to your job. And I appreciate your staff and everything that y'all do to try to keep all the balls in there at the same time. I was proud to see that that the recreation center in my district is the most used park with 2,000 to 2,500 people a month. And I know me and you've already had this conversation, and it may already be in the works and wasn't in this, but as such, with all the people that come and go out there, and with the days starting to get shorter again, lighting is still an issue there. So hopefully that's still in the works to get some lights in that parking lot, because it's really dark out there at night. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Commissioner Watkins?
Hey, thank you for the presentation. I'm curious on timeline and next steps. What happens next?
So I think we need to move now on trying to get an architect in to build a render and look at our priority list and give us estimates on what this will cost. I think that's key to knowing what our budget is. We know what our budget is, but we really don't know exactly what all of these improvements are going to cost us. We can estimate, but when it comes to what I dealt with the last splits and the last renovations, the cost of construction has increased tremendously, and so we don't know what we're dealing with what this stuff is going to cost. So I think the next step will possibly be getting an architect in and looking at the priority list and coming up with an estimate.
Is the architect acquisition already happening, or is there something this body needs to do to affect that?
No, it's not already happening. We would have to do an RFP.
So my next question is, how do we get the RFP started, or is there anything else we need to do, or just wait? I'm not sure. Is there money that needs to be allocated, or?
We were waiting to hear back from commissioners to see what the focus is going to be, and we can put out an RFP through our procurement department for that. But we really didn't want to get ahead of the game on that particular issue because, you know, it does come out of their SPOS dollars that you're doing for those projects. You have to remember that. So if you do a grand scheme of things and knowing that you only have a little money to work with, or not say a little money, but less money to work with because of the finances, you use a large part of that up having these designs done, because normally when you run out of money, they phase it. But we're prepared to do that in October to work on getting that procurement out, RFP out.
So what needs to happen next for us to confirm our focus areas? I heard focus areas from commission. Is there a statement or action we need to take to confirm focus areas to keep it moving? Or
we're going to keep it moving as far as RFP, but we wanted to hear feedback today on these particular projects before we took the next step. So today is kind of that.
Okay. So for me, I would love to see us continue to move forward with the areas where you have the phrase. My only, I guess, thing is I'm for the inclusive playgrounds. So if there's some ADA accessible playgrounds is what I'm interested in, creating those spaces. So however the architect or the renders need to come back to make sure we have that option still available, I would appreciate.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lucas?
Thank you. Some years ago, there were a lot of areas of town that didn't have sufficient access to recreational activities and buildings. And previous councils and commissions undertook support for comprehensive recreation in Macon-Bibb. Whereas we might not be there, we're surely closer than we used to be. And a large part of that is due to you and the hard work that you and the previous, I have to give him credit to, who worked really, really hard on this. And so I want to compliment you on all the work. We all can see the kinds of things that you and your staff have put in place. There are things going on all over Macon-Bibb County as far as recreation. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I originally was opposed to charging children to attend the summer programs, but you continue with a fee, a reasonable fee, and you've just told us that the numbers are almost close to what you could accommodate, the over 800 who pay. And so I thought that was really, really good. I just want to add that I know we're discussing future SPLOST. I know we can't help but start to discuss that. And the citizens have voted in the past to help us to fund things that are priorities for them. So I know we got to do a new jail, and that is so unfortunate. But that jail that we have in place just will not do. There are just too many things going on there. It's not safe for folks that we're supposed to be locking up. It's certainly not safe for the officers who have to patrol in there. But the other side of that is recreation. And so I would just encourage those of you who will be continuing on future commissions, if you would please consider it, while you're dealing with the jail issue, which you have to deal with, please include recreation and making sure that on top of the implementation of that recreation plan that seems like it was so far in the past, that you continue to improve what we offer as recreation, because I truly believe that it does help us to save a lot of our children, and not just our children, but it offers some things for seniors, folks of all age groups. And I think that's a testament to you and your staff. So y'all please write this down if you have to. When you deal with the jail, please deal with recreational offerings at the same time, and hopefully the recreational positives will outdistance the jail negatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bronson, then Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Awesome deal. Hey, once again, thank you for the presentation. You guys are really addressing the needs of the community, like where the rubber meets the road. So thank you guys for what you're doing that in. We've already kind of hit on the whole ADA piece of it, the senior involvement on the outskirts, right? When it boils down to the parks, 4 of those gyms, I want to say roughly fall within my district. And in saying that, so we have Rosa Jackson Memorial Gym, Thurman Ushery, and then Carolyn Creighton. So out of those 4, I have been asked in regards to charging stations. When we talk about parking and developing for the parking lots and so forth, have we included or thought about the process of including charging stations, being that we are now shifting into the EV world? How does that look or play into your plans that you have?
I have not looked at putting EV charging stations in. It may be something to look at, but that's not something that I've looked at right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Yeah, I just wanted to express, since you're asking for the kind of input on direction from the commission, it sounds like, I think the prioritization lists that you had for each center are great. And I think they reflect previous input from this body, both on tours and up here. And I'm really grateful that you, for the attention to detail on that. I know that we've said that the RFP process is moving forward, which is awesome, but I would just like to say it's as a commissioner, if y'all are looking for input, I think the prioritization that you have is fantastic, and I'd like to see, I'm excited about seeing the budgeting process, or the budget for this, to see where we can, if we need to reorganize a SPLOST calendar, what room we have to do it. But I think the prioritization is wonderful, and that's the input I'd like to give, with the emphasis on that Commissioner Watkins has laid down too a good bit on the ADA accessibility. I think that's a worthy investment for playground upgrades that would go far. So I just really appreciate this, Robert, and that's, I think if y'all want input on how to move forward, I think the prioritization is and seeing what this prioritization costs is the right way forward.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have already moved up all this money already previously in the calendar, so this is the amount available for each project, or projects as a whole in there, so we don't have to do anything on that regard. Commissioner Watkins?
Yes, sir. Could the slide on Memorial Gym, like that last slide, could you pull it up again? Awesome. Hey, thank you. The blue one that says tennis court near the parking lot. I'm right to say that's a basketball court now?
That's currently a basketball court.
Talk to me a little bit about the rationale behind, I guess, swapping out a tennis court for a basketball court.
So, as you can see, the neon green is what used to be a tennis court that was converted to a basketball court. So my recommendation is to renovate that area, put the basketball court there. And if you look to the left of your screen, you see two small, and I did not identify these by colors, but you see two small pavilions there. Those pavilions are too far from the facility to be able to manage. So my proposal was making that kind of a family central location and moving those pavilions up top and by the playground and where most families would congregate to be able to participate at the playground, or the few people that will play tennis, and there could still be a pavilion available for them to use or rent or whatever the case may be, and moving that basketball court down to where the previous one was, because it's still there now. It's just not in good shape. So I just want to renovate that as a whole and move it there to kind of give a more space for a playground, more space for two pavilions, and stick a tennis court there, simply because I've had a couple of people in that community that asked me about a tennis court. And I'm not talking about a double court, maybe just one court.
And I'm tracking right. I think I understand where it says basketball court now. That's a tennis court. And so it's swapping.
That is a tennis court now that was converted to a basketball court. So it's a basketball court right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So currently there's no tennis on site
at all.
There are 3 basketball courts, and so it would be 2 basketball courts and 1 tennis? Or?
There are 2 basketball courts now. So now it'll be 1 basketball court, 1 tennis court.
Okay.
And so kind of if you look at it, the active portion of this part that's the active area. The tennis I just put there because there was the spacing that we could put it.
And the houses 2449, 2477, 2489. Anecdotally, I know at least 2 of them to be boarded up and in disrepair. Has there been any talk about expanding that footprint in the front, or?
I have not talked to anyone. I would like to expand parking if possible, but I'm not aware of them being abandoned or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
That satisfies me on this map. I think I understand. Could you go to the Bloomfield? And on Bloomfield, I wanted you to talk to me about the pools again.
Okay. So
I don't know if I remember, or at least I didn't take the note on the pool over there.
So we have now today we have restored power to the pool, as well as of me getting back in town on yesterday. I was aware that we have now restored the water to that location. So I now need to make an assessment and go over and look at it. But I'm very confident that we will have that location back up and running.
So we'll be able to maintain that pool with its existing budget, no need for it to be discussed in this space?
I don't think so right now.
Okay.
But if I get to that point, I will definitely bring that up.
And I know with it's a very large footprint facility over there.
Correct.
And most of the programming indoor-wise is going on at the old Gilead.
Correct.
And last time I checked, the traditional Bloomfield old center was either being used as storage or not active.
Correct.
Were the plans in here to reactivate that center? I remember, or at least I remember a fantasy about turning it into some type of dance facility or gymnastics type facility, but let me hush on that. What's the plan for that building?
You're right. There was a plan at one point in time from the rec department to turn that location into a competitive cheer and dance program. It was. But we ran into funding issues with being able to do something like that, as well as we would run into staffing issue as well of being able to do that. So right now, the building is there. It was used to store some county stuff at some point in time, but right now that building is completely cleaned out right now. The gym is still there, but there's no staff at that location.
Just what prevents it from being functional? And am I right to say that the current plan, if left unaltered, would keep it unfunctional?
One thing that building is in dire need of some renovations. That is a old location. Um, Not to go down the history path of why we're there, but in order to get that building functioning, one, we're definitely gonna have to do some renovations. Two, it will require additional staff to get that building functioning.
Okay, because from a staffing standpoint, we've shifted programming
We
to
shipped
Gilead.
all the programming over to the Bloomfield Gilead site. Yes, correct.
And to actually run that, it would require. How does that impact you with baseball? Or because I know it's almost two entrances to both of them.
Correct.
Does that? I know, and there was an old plan on solving that too, that it could be a continuous, I guess, experience.
Yeah, there was an old plan to be able to join the two locations. In a way, they are joined by the community because there's a path between the two. But right now, when baseball functions, they are functioning there. We do go over and keep the facility clean and maintenance, landscaping, all that. But it's kind of typically what we do with all of our youth associations. They run the facility when it's baseball. So only for baseball, they run that facility. And then the building, like I said, is there. It would definitely take staffing to make that building functioning.
So I'm right. It would require some type of change to our plan. To again, I don't know if it'd be a cart path or a truck path or something like that.
Correct.
To get me back and forth to both of them without going back out into Rocket Creek or Bloomfield. Excuse me.
The path that was initially talked about was a walk path. It was not for cars.
Okay.
It was never intended for cars. It was only for somebody to park at the current Bloomfield Gilead site and maybe walk over to Gilead for baseball, or you could enter in the other side, which is the old side on Lions Place. You can drive on Lions Place. So it was never intended that you could drive through between both to get there.
Okay.
Staffing has the ability to go between because they have a maintenance cart they can drive back and forth. And where, like I said, there's a path between that kids have made, and we have cut out a little bit that they can walk through to get to that facility.
Okay, so that's joining the two locations in your mind has been solved as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And from Frank Johnson, nothing stuck out to me on the map, but I'm reminded that they're around the corner, not 100 yards away. There's a second park that we own, kind of close to the church, Center Hill Church.
Yeah, we refer to it as May Park.
May Park.
Yeah, it's on May Street. There's nothing in the plan for that portion of it because I focused on everything around the facility. But you can see a portion of that turnaround in the corner of that map that you see at the top left corner. That's the kind of turnaround to get there. But I didn't put anything in the plan for that portion of it. Everything here was centered around the actual facility. What we consider as May Park was, from my understanding, that it was a standalone location, and we kind of just brought it into the Frank Johnson fold.
Okay. Is that part of the 14-11 mix that you were mentioning earlier, or is it
facilities?
Yeah, like how do you classify like May Park? Is that part of like earlier I wrote down the 14 rec center thing?
Yeah. So the parks are separate from what I consider parks that don't have rec centers separate.
Okay.
So that'll be separate. As you know, on Pansy, on the opposite side of Pansy, there's James Williams Park.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Project for a New Day.
Yeah, I'm just
I would
saying
love to see a list of those places.
Yeah. So it's like it's a standalone park. It's not considered a park that's a part of a rec center, and that's what I consider May Park. It's just close to Frank Johnson. It's a separate entity.
Project for a New Day. Interesting. Interesting though. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll yield from now. I thank you. But just, I'm interested with Bloomfield, talking a little bit more about how to get second building functional or safe again. At least give us the option, even if we don't have the staff. If that's something that, as we're discussing with the architect, I'd appreciate just to see what those costs look like.
Okay.
And again, I guess following up on that pool and any other pool, just to make sure, I heard you and I wrote the note that we should be able to handle it, but if not, I would love to see us being able to get that one back open, because it's been a couple years, if I'm correct, that it's been open to the public?
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, I yield.
This year and last year.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Commissioner Bronson?
Hey, going back to Memorial Gym real quick, if you don't mind. So something I just thought about, and forgive me for prolonging this, guys. On that backside, we did a community cleanup a few months back, and on that back road, two things come to mind. One is the illegal dumping sites that's in the back of that area, and then the other one is the safety and security of those that are trying to get to the new basketball court or proposed basketball court that you have on this end. Is there any means that we can probably utilize to say, hey, we're going to put probably 6 parking spots or 8 parking spots on that road that lies behind, to the left of the stream, should I say, that lies behind there to assist in so many ways? People will probably avoid dumping back there if they know that people are parking back there to go to the basketball court.
Well, just looking at it now, I definitely think that's a possibility.
Okay.
Again, I think an architect looking at the design and saying that it can be placed here, placed there, I think that's key. But just looking at it right now, I think that's a possibility that you may be able to put a parking lot below those fields and that lead up to the basketball court.
Let me say, I'll say parking spaces. I won't say parking lot, but yeah, parking spaces.
Okay.
Just along that way. That way, because if you're parking at the top here, you got a pretty lengthy walk, and if you're playing basketball, let's say 8 o'clock hits, now you got a possible situation on your hands. So I just kind of want to make sure that, one, we address the illegal dumping side, while at the same time making it the access to the basketball court is safe for people to kind of come in and park and enjoy. So that's it. That's how I yield.
Thank you, Commissioner Bronson, and thank you, Director Walker, for being here today and for all the hard work that you've done ahead of time. We'll get busy on looking at an architect or architectural designs, probably preference to those who did the original facilities in that area, so we can expedite the process. They probably already have a blueprint for a lot of this, and then we'll develop an RFP. Dr. Moffitt, you trying to say something, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of what y'all call it, personal privilege.
It's not time for that right now, sir.
I know, but Director Walker is one of those department heads that really think I don't like him. But today y'all talked.
It's because you told him that.
I know. But today y'all talked about the future, but I just want to say thank you for all that you do day to day. Probably one of the toughest jobs, calling at 10 o'clock at night, dealing with kids, parents, vendors, facilities, busted pipes, irrigation systems, making bacon. Just know that the rec department does a lot. And so I just want to make sure that you know that your efforts are greatly appreciated. So thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Moffitt. We're going to hear from Commissioner Lucas, and then we're going to executive session.
And I'm sorry, but anyway, the parent training, is your department still requiring parents of kids who participate in events to go through that parent training?
You talking about with youth sports?
Yes.
So we did not move the 1401 guideline that we had with the old city up when we consolidated. Do I request that all youth associations do that? Yes. I still request that they do that. I still request that they meet with their parents. I still request that they go over rules and regulations of the park. We just don't have the full document that they do. Now, when it comes to Macon-Bibb County Parks and Rec athletic programs, there is a signed document in every registration form that has a code of conduct for the parents. So we still do it, and I still suggest that they do it with all youth associations.
Okay, I just thought that was something that was necessary, because parents get really, really into this stuff, and I think they ought to know that some of that stuff that they do is kind of illegal, you know? So that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. This time, thank you, Mr. Walker, for being here. Ahmad, thank you for being here today, and both of what you gentlemen continue to do for our community. This time, we're going to go into executive session for the consultation with county attorney or other legal counsel to discuss pending and potential litigation, settlement of claims, administrative procedures, and all the judicial actions brought by law or allowed by law. This time, we get a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Commissioner Wilder. We get a second. Second by Commissioner Howell. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Now executive session. Need a motion to come out of executive session? A motion by Commissioner Bronson, second by Commissioner Wynn. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. We're now in executive session. This meeting is hereby adjourned.